Scene 1. The shop itself. The soft, rhythmic thumping of fabric bolts hitting a wooden counter. Outside, the faint street noises of 1810s London. There are shops in London that smell of money, and shops that smell of desperation, and a very few that smell of something else entirely, something harder to name. The Westwood fabric shop smelled of lavender tucked between wool, cedar from the old storage chest, and the faint ghost of French perfume clinging to lace from Lyon. The scent of possibility of the life cloth could become in the right hands. Edmund Westwood had built the shop from a single market stall, teaching Marian to feel the difference between true French silk and English imitation before she could read. Her mother kept the books and charmed customers with equal ease. Both were gone now, taken by the same fever 3 years past, leaving the shop to Thomas and Marian, his ambition, her gift. Scene 2. Marian. The soft sweep of fabric unrolling across the counter sounds like a whispered curtsy, its silken length gliding with practiced grace. Footsteps echo upon polished wooden floors, measured, composed, each one carrying the quiet authority of a world where every movement is observed, and every gesture speaks of breeding, restraint, and the delicate choreography of courtly life. Marian, at 22, did not think herself beautiful, though she was in the ways that mattered: steady hands, direct gaze, quiet authority. She dressed well but never showy. A fabric seller who dressed above her station made customers nervous. She read voraciously, argued pleasantly, and held firm opinions about textiles, literature, and tea. Society overlooked her. Life would not. She was, in short, exactly the kind of woman that society overlooked and life eventually rewarded, though she did not know that yet. Scene 3. Thomas and the ambition. Her brother Thomas was 26 and constructed entirely of forward momentum. He had their father's stubbornness but applied it differently, not to craftsmanship but to expansion. He wanted the shop to be more than it was. He wanted accounts with the great houses, commissions from the aristocracy, a second location perhaps, nearer to the West End where the real money moved. Marian's ambition was quieter, excellence, mastery, the kind no one could doubt. Between them, the shop thrived, its rhythm keeping her steady through grief. It was the pulse of it that kept her going, in the months after her parents' passing. Grief is easier when your hands are occupied. She was grateful every day, for the bolts that needed sorting and the clients that needed charming and the accounts that needed squaring. The shop did not allow her to disappear into her sadness. It required her, and she found that being required was its own kind of comfort. Scene 4. The morning he came in. A busy spring morning stirs through the shop, alive with the gentle rustle of fabrics and the quiet purpose of the day beginning. The bell above the door rings with a clear, courteous chime, an announcement as polite as any bow. And then, the soft weight of boots pauses on the threshold, a moment of poised arrival, as though the very air holds its breath to see who steps into this world of order, refinement, and freshly awakened possibility. He came in on a Thursday morning in April, when the shop was at its most cheerful. A delivery of French lace had arrived the day before, and Marian had spent the morning arranging it along the front counter where the light caught it best. Scene 1. The 5 years. Time gathers dust if you let it. Months flip by like dry leaves in a gale, each date a promise kept or a debt forgotten. 5 years is a long time to love someone quietly. 5 years of pressing his letters flat between the pages of her Bible, of ink-stained fingers and prayers whispered into the hem of her apron. 5 years of checking shipping notices before the kettle was even on, of telling herself that no news from the front was good news, and almost believing it. The shop kept her sane. There was always something to be done, a bolt of silk to catalogue, a hem to measure, a difficult customer to charm. Thomas handled the accounts and suppliers. Marian handled everything else. She had grown into the role without noticing, the way one grows into grief, until it simply became the shape of her days. She kept the silver thimble in her apron pocket. Not on display. Not hidden. Just there, close. The way you keep something you're not yet ready to decide about. Scene 2. The morning papers. Early morning. The kitchen stirs awake, a fire popping softly as it catches, and the faint rustle of a newspaper being opened. Mrs. Potts had a system, and the system had begun without either of them acknowledging it. It started 3 weeks after Brandon sailed, a Tuesday in November, when Marian came downstairs before dawn and found the papers already laid out on the kitchen table, opened and smoothed flat, the shipping notices and military dispatches facing upward. Mrs. Potts was at the stove, back turned, saying nothing about the papers or the hour. Marian sat, read the dispatches, read the notices, found nothing, folded the paper, and sat quietly. "Porridge is ready," Mrs. Potts said. "Thank you," Marian replied. They did not discuss it. The next morning the papers were laid out again. And the morning after that. It became, without ceremony, simply the shape of the morning. Marian downstairs before the shop opened, the papers waiting, Mrs. Potts at the stove, neither of them speaking about why. Scene 3, the first year. The seasons shift, rain softens into frost, then gives way to birdsong. The shop bell rings, steady as a heartbeat. The first year was the easiest, because expectation had not yet curdled into doubt. Letters came, not as many as she hoped, but they came, ink-smudged, delayed, sometimes 3 at once after a month of silence, sometimes 1 thin page after 6 weeks of waiting. She kept them in a wooden box her father had made, once used for his best shears. Sometimes, in the evenings after the shop closed, she read them aloud to Mrs. Potts, the permissible parts, landscapes, weather, the dull bureaucracy of army life. Mrs. Potts would sit with her mending, listening without comment, making small sounds that could mean either sympathy or skepticism. "He writes well," Mrs. Potts said once, after a passage about the hills outside Lisbon. "He reads a great deal," Marian replied. "He told me the library in his family's house was the one good thing about it." Mrs. Potts bit off a thread. "A man who reads is a better prospect than one who doesn't," she said, which, from Mrs. Potts, was as close to approval as one could get. Scene 4, the second and third year. A quill scratching. A letter folded. A faint wind at the window. The second year, the letters slowed. Gaps stretched from weeks to months, and when they came they were shorter, more guarded, as if he wrote with one eye on a reader he didn't trust. She understood. The war was closing around him, making everything smaller, tighter. Still, she wrote back every fortnight. "You write to him more than he writes to you," Mrs. Potts observed one evening. Not unkindly, simply stating a fact. "He is fighting a war," Marian said, not looking up. "Men have written letters from wars since wars began," Mrs. Potts replied, returning to her mending. "Nelson wrote letters. Wellington writes letters, they say. Frequently." Marian didn't answer. She finished the letter, sealed it, and set it with the others to be posted. Mrs. Potts said nothing more. But the next morning the papers were laid out as always, the porridge was ready, and the fire was stoked high against the February cold. Mrs. Potts's quiet way of saying, "I am still here. I am still watching. I have not stopped." Scene 5, the third year. The habit of hope. A quiet house at night. A candle burning low. By the third year, Marian had developed what she privately called a habit of hope, a daily, deliberate practice of believing he would come back. Mrs. Potts understood it. She had her own version, and she recognized it in Marian the way a craftsman recognizes familiar tools in someone else's hands. One evening she found Marian at the kitchen table, the wooden box of letters open before her, not reading, just resting her hand on the stack. It was late. Mrs. Potts put the kettle on. She made 2 cups of tea without being asked, set one in front of Marian, and took the other to her chair by the fire. "He'll either come back or he won't," she said, not cruelly, but with the matter-of-fact tenderness of someone who believed naming a fear reduced its power. "If he comes back, you'll learn soon enough what he's made of. And if he doesn't," she paused, "you'll manage. You've managed before." "That is not comforting, Mrs. Potts," Marian said. "No," Mrs. Potts agreed. "But it's true. And I find truth more useful than comfort in the long run." She sipped her tea. "Drink yours. It'll go cold." Marian drank. The letters stayed in the box. The candle burned low. Outside, London moved on, indifferent and eternal. While inside the kitchen on Cheapside, 2 women sat in companionable silence and waited. Scene 6, The 5th year. The papers changed their news. She didn't look at the paper that morning. She didn't see the front page, didn't notice the bold print announcing promotions or returns. She simply tied her shawl, stepped out into the cool October air, and went straight to the shop as she always did. Inside Westward, the day was already alive. The muses were tossing off fabrics, holding bolts of midnight blue and emerald to their shoulders, laughing, comparing, bustling from mirror to mirror. Elegant ladies filled the aisles, breathless with excitement. The regimental balls were beginning again. Marian moved through the shop, straightening a stack of satin, adjusting a display of lace. She wasn't listening at first. Not until she heard it, a bright, careless voice near the window. "Did you hear? The regiment is back in town." Her hand stilled. Her heart gave one sharp, startled beat, then another. She turned slightly, pretending to examine a spool of thread, listening as the muses chattered on, names, officers, decorations, celebrations. A flicker of suspicion, a rush of hope, a confusion so swift it left her breathless. Brandon's regiment. Here. In London. Her pulse quickened, steady and undeniable. Scene 7. The letter. The shop quiets at closing time. A single candle. The scratch of a quill. That evening, after Thomas locked the door and went upstairs, Marian sat at her writing desk in her bedchamber. She waited a long time before writing anything. What does a woman say to a man she's loved for 5 years and not heard from in 5 months? She wrote 3 versions and burned 2, watching the paper curl and blacken in the candle flame. The third she kept, short, dignified. It said she'd heard the regiments were returned, that she hoped he was well, that she was, as always, at the shop in Cheapside. She signed it simply, Marian. She did not write what she meant. I am still here. I kept my word. Come and find me. She sealed it with plain wax and sent it by Thomas's boy the next morning to Brandon's family house in Mayfair. By afternoon, the boy returned. The house was open, busy with callers. He'd left the letter with the housekeeper. Marian nodded and went back to measuring silk. Scene 8. The waiting, again. The slow tick of a shop clock. The bell that does not ring. A week passed. The women kept coming for their silks and satins, full of stories. My husband has written. My brother arrived yesterday. The general's parade is on Thursday. The city was feverish, and the shop was swept up in it. Busy, bright, full of other people's joy. Marian waited. 2 weeks. She found herself listening for the bell above the door with a kind of attention she despised. 5 weeks. Thomas's boy, passing through Mayfair, heard that the general was very much in London, and very much engaged with the season. His name appeared in the papers twice, once at a military review in Hyde Park, once beside Lady Caroline, daughter of the Marquis of Lansdowne. Marian read that second notice on a Wednesday. She set the paper down, finished her tea, and opened the shop. Then she moved the silver thimble from her apron pocket to the small box in her drawer, where she kept things she no longer needed daily, but was not yet ready to throw away. Scene 9. The ball. The distant swell of orchestra music. Carriage wheels on a grand drive. It was Thomas who insisted on the ball. He'd secured an invitation through a client and told Marian she'd measured grief long enough, that French silk was wasted on a woman who never left the shop. She went because arguing with Thomas was exhausting, and because some small, stubborn part of her still wanted to know. The ballroom glittered with officers of the regiment. She looked for him, and found him. The room seemed to shift around him, the way rooms do around men who've become famous. He was older, broader, draped in gold braid. Lady Caroline, the Marquis's daughter, leaned against him, diamonds spelling out her future. Brandon saw Marian. For a heartbeat, the lieutenant returned, a flicker, real and unmistakable. Then the general took over. His expression smoothed into polite blankness. Lady Caroline followed his gaze. Who is she? Brandon didn't hesitate. No one. But behind the mask, a thought moved through him. Quick, cold, practiced. He did care for Marian. He always had. But Lady Caroline came from an influential family, a family that could lift him higher, open doors he'd dreamed of since he first put on a uniform. Ambition had its own gravity, and he let it pull him. He looked through Marian as if she were a common thread, someone he'd once met and forgotten. The silver thimble was in the drawer at home. It was, she realized, the only sensible decision she'd made in 5 years. Scene 1. Leaving the ball. Ballroom music fades into the distance. Footsteps echo across marble, the great doors open, and the rain comes at once, sudden and heavy, swallowing the night. She did not run. She walked, quickly, deliberately, through the ballroom, through the anteroom, past the footman whose neutral expression asked nothing of her. She took her wrap and kept moving. The steps of the Marquis's townhouse were wide and grand. She descended them with her spine straight, her face arranged in the practiced composure of a woman who refuses to flinch. But the moment she reached the pavement, the rain hit her, the music vanished, and there was no one left to perform for. She walked in the rain. She didn't care where to. Scene 2. The rain. Rain hammers the cobblestones, a relentless, drumming sheet of water. London at midnight in the rain was a different city, stripped of its grandeur, its facades reduced to wet stone and broken reflections. Marian had always found this version easier to be honest in. She walked without direction, thinking of the thimble in the drawer, of 5 years of morning papers and ink-stained fingers, of the lieutenant's face appearing for one unguarded second before being dismissed. The rain was a mercy. She had promised herself she would not cry on the pavement. Technically, she kept that promise. Scene 3. The collision. A sharp breath, a sudden collision, solid enough to steal the air. Something clatters to the ground, lost to the rain that keeps falling, steady and unbothered. She turned a corner without looking, entirely unlike her, and collided full force with a man coming the other way. He caught her by the arms before she fell, dropping whatever he'd been carrying. For a moment they stood there, hands on coat and arms, both steadying. He was perhaps 35, weathered by more than weather, with a stillness she recognized from men who had learned to be quiet inside themselves. His coat was excellent, the kind that cost money without announcing it. "I beg your pardon," she said automatically. He released her only when he was sure she was steady. "The fault was mine," he said, his voice deep and unhurried. "Nor was I," she replied. The rain fell between them. Neither moved. Scene 4. He sees her. Rain falls steadily, thunder murmurs far off, and the street lies empty, holding its silence. Henry James Fitzroy, Duke of Richmond, had attended the ball only because his secretary insisted. He had endured 1 hour and 40 minutes of polite detachment before leaving early and walking into the rain to think. He was thinking of nothing at all when he turned the corner, and found her. She was not crying, but she was holding herself together with deliberate care. The rain had done what her composure refused, revealing a face of unguarded honesty. She was not a society woman. She stood as if she simply existed, not as if she were being observed. And she had been hurt, recently, sharply. He recognized the landscape. Scene 5. The offer. Rain falls, and then everything stills. A quiet suspended in the air, as if the world is holding its breath. "You are shivering," he said, the plain truth, without presumption. "I am," she answered. "My carriage is on the next street. I can have you taken wherever you need to go. You may have it entirely to yourself. My footman Carson is 22 and alarmed by most things." It was exactly the right offer: warmth, safety, and no company required. "I did not say I was going anywhere," she said. "No," he agreed. A beat of rain. "There is a hotel on Piccadilly. Then we will go to the hotel." He offered his arm. She took it. Scene 6. The carriage. The carriage door swings open. The rain softens to a muffled hush, and the leather inside creaks gently as the world grows quieter. The carriage was warm. A lap blanket waited on the seat, and she wrapped it around herself without ceremony. He kept his word. He did not get in. She breathed, looking out at the rain-slicked streets, taking the evening apart seam by seam. The silver thimble was in the drawer at home. Some part of her had already known. Scene 7. Arriving. A name. The carriage begins to slow, the wheels easing their rhythm, and outside, the rain softens, thinning into a quiet drizzle. At the hotel, he handed her down and held his coat overhead as brief shelter. At the door she paused. "I don't know your name." "Henry," he said, "not the title, just the man." "Marian." He nodded, as if confirming something. "Go inside, Marian. Get warm." She stepped into the lobby. He remained on the pavement a moment longer, rain thinning around him, hat in hand. James watched from the carriage box, unsurprised by his employer's quiet mysteries. "Home," the Duke said. "Yes, Your Grace." The carriage moved on. Inside, a woman in ruined silk sat in a lobby chair, warm for the first time all evening. Outside, the rain finally stopped. Scene 11, after the ball. The city quieter now, a carriage passing somewhere far off. She did not remember the carriage ride home. Only the ballroom, the heat, the chandeliers, the gold braid. Lady Caroline's diamonds. His face going blank. By the time she reached Cheapside, it was near midnight. She stood at the door with her key in hand, French silk soaked through, her expression composed because she had decided she would not fall apart on the pavement. She would get inside first. A key turning, a door opening, warm light spilling out to meet her. The door opened before she touched the lock. Mrs. Potts stood there in her housecoat and cap, lamp in hand. One look at Marian, the ruined silk, the wet hair, the held-together face, and something flickered across her own expression before she smoothed it away. She stepped back and opened the door wider, the way you do for someone who has been out in the cold a long time. The kettle went on. Mrs. Potts moved with the quiet efficiency of a woman who had made late-night tea in difficult circumstances before. She did not ask about the gown, the hour, the rain, or the face that was beginning, now, in the warm kitchen, to consider not holding itself together. She set a cup before Marian and took her seat by the fire with her mending. The fire crackled softly. The kettle settled. Outside, the rain kept falling with perfect indifference. A long pause, fire breathing low, rain steady, two women sitting in a kitchen at midnight. At last, Marian told her. "Brandon." The ballroom. Lady Caroline's diamonds. His face going blank. "He looked through me," she said, "as though I were a common thread." Mrs. Potts did not look up. She did not offer comfort or correction. She simply listened. Then she bit off her thread, folded the mending, rose, and refilled Marian's cup. "Drink," she said. The rain eased. The fire burned steadily. The night reached its deepest point. Marian drank. The tea was strong, slightly too hot, and exactly right. "The silk can be dried by morning," Mrs. Potts said. "If we hang it properly, it won't set. I've saved worse. You'll need to take it off before you go up." It was such a practical thing, the one salvageable piece of a ruined night. The silk can be saved. Let us save the silk. Let us begin with what can be done. Something shifted in Marian's chest. Not breaking, that had happened already, something releasing. "And tomorrow," Mrs. Potts added, returning to her chair, "you'll open the shop at the usual hour. Thomas needs the inventory done, Mrs. Fellows is coming about the curtains, and the Leon order won't sort itself. The shop doesn't care about General Willoughby," she said. "And neither, starting tomorrow, do we." Marian looked at her, this small, fierce, loyal constant, and felt a gratitude too deep for words. "Mrs. Potts," she said. "Ahem," said Mrs. Potts. "Thank you." The fire breathed low. The rain softened. The needle moved through fabric in small, steady stitches. Mrs. Potts banked the fire, rinsed the cups, checked the back door lock, the shape of her days, the way she held things together. Tomorrow the shop would open at the usual hour. Life, which had no patience for heartbreak and no interest in General Willoughby, required attendance. Mrs. Potts intended to make sure it got it. Scene 1. Henry's morning after. Across the city, Henry James Fitzroy, Duke of Richmond, stood at his window with his coat still damp from the night before. He had slept poorly, not from unrest, but from replaying the collision in the rain, the steadiness of her voice, the way she had looked up at him with a composure that was not performance but survival. He had met hundreds of women in drawing rooms, ballrooms, and country estates. None of them had looked at him the way she had, directly, without calculation, without expectation. He found himself wondering if she had reached home safely, if she had warmed, if she had slept. He wondered why he cared. He knew the answer, of course. He simply wasn't ready to name it. He turned from the window, already reaching for his coat. He would return to the hotel. He would ask questions. He would find her. The city was large, but he had never been a man deterred by size. Scene 2, the search. Carriage wheels clattered softly over the uneven cobblestones, each turn of the axle catching the rhythm of the street. Around it, the morning market murmured and breathed, vendors calling, fabric rustling, footsteps threading through the press of London's waking hours. A living hum wrapped itself around the passing carriage like a familiar cloak. The next morning, the Duke returned to the hotel, but the bird had flown. He spent weeks searching the high-end shops of London, not for a gift, but for a face. His secretary thought him peculiar. His sister thought him bewitched. He ignored them both. And when he finally stepped into the Westwood fabric shop and saw Marian measuring lace, calm and unhurried as if the world owed her nothing, the world righted itself. Scene 3, Mrs. Potts and the Duke. The measuring. Early morning, the shop still closed, the soft scrape of a broom over stone. Marian told Mrs. Potts about the carriage, the rain, the collision, the offer, the ride. His name was Henry. He'd walked so she could ride. A stranger, Mrs. Potts said. Yes. Whose carriage you rode in? Alone. James the footman was on the box. Mrs. Potts made a doubtful sound. He was kind, Marian said. I was cold. I didn't ask his last name. Mrs. Potts refilled the kettle. Well, you're home. You're dry. That's something. The shop eased into its morning rhythm, the bell chiming, followed by unfamiliar footsteps. Mrs. Potts wasn't meant to be there. She stepped to the doorway and saw him. Tall, excellent coat, hat in his hands, and looking at Marian with an expression she classified instantly as not browsing. She had seen men look at Marian before. This was different, the look of someone who had found what he'd been searching for. From the shop came low conversation, then Marian's short, surprised laugh. Mrs. Potts hadn't heard that laugh since before the war. She slipped out the back door. By supper, the kitchen was warm, the fire steady, dishes settling into place. Thomas mentioned the visitor. Marian said only that he had been kind and had checked on her. When Thomas left, Mrs. Potts asked, his last name. I didn't ask. How long was he in the shop? An hour. Perhaps more. Mrs. Potts had opinions about that, but Marian's face was open, unguarded. He has a good coat, she said instead, her version of approval. A quiet Tuesday afternoon, autumn lights slanting through the shop. On his third visit, Mrs. Potts made tea. A deliberate act. She carried 2 cups to the counter and looked at him directly. He met her gaze without flinching. Henry Fitzroy, he said. The Duke of Richmond. She absorbed this with a small nod. Your Grace. The tea will go cold, she said, and returned to the storeroom. Among the bolts of fabric, she heard Marian laugh again, the good laugh. Mrs. Potts straightened a bolt that didn't need straightening. Well, she murmured. About time. Scene 4, the good jam. Before dawn, the kitchen breathed softly, the fire low, the kettle beginning to warm. The next morning, Marian found the papers on the table, and beside them, for the first time in 5 years, the good jam. She stopped, looked at the jar, then at the front page. The corner had been folded back, neatly, deliberately, the way Mrs. Potts marked anything that ought to be seen. General Brandon Willoughby, engaged to Lady Caroline Ashcombe, daughter of the Marquis of Lansdowne. The announcement was brief, triumphant, entirely expected by everyone who had never waited 5 years for a letter that never came. Marian read it once. Only once. It was enough. She looked at the jar of raspberry jam again, then at Mrs. Potts's back at the stove, stiff, purposeful, pretending to be occupied with the porridge. Nothing was said, but the kitchen was warm, the fire high, and outside the city was waking into a morning that felt, finally, worth waking into. Mrs. Potts had made her decision. The Duke would do. Scene 5. She tells him about Brandon. A quiet afternoon, the soft creak of the shop door settling, tea being poured. The courtship began not with declarations, but with honesty. One grey afternoon, as rain tapped the windows and Henry sat across from her in the small room above the shop, Marian spoke of Brandon for the first time. She did not cry. She was past crying. She simply told him, the silver thimble, the lieutenant's smile, the letters she had counted like coins. The small, tender plans they had made. A house near the sea, children, a life stitched from two ordinary hearts. She told him how she had waited, how each ship returning without a letter felt like a quiet funeral, and how, at the Marquis's ball, she had finally buried it all. Henry listened. He didn't rush to comfort, didn't offer platitudes. He simply stayed with her in the silence. When she finished, he said only, he was a fool. Not unkindly, just true. Marian laughed, a short, startled sound she hadn't heard from herself in months. Scene 6. Mrs. Potts's first real comment about the Duke. The kettle hissed softly. Mrs. Potts lifted it from the hook, poured the water, and set the pot back with a firmness that suggested she had reached a conclusion. She did not look at Marian when she spoke. He came back. Not a question. Not an accusation. A statement of fact, delivered like a verdict. Marian folded the newspaper, aligning the edges with unnecessary care. Yes, she said quietly. Mrs. Potts nodded once, still facing the stove. Men who mean nothing don't come back. A pause. The spoon tapped the rim of the pot. And men who mean something don't stay away. It was the closest she would ever come to saying she approved. Marian felt the words settle into her like warmth. Scene 7. Marian realizes she slept through the night. Later, when the kitchen had emptied and the morning had fully taken hold, Marian paused at the doorway, struck by a sudden, unfamiliar sensation. She felt rested. Not the brittle half-sleep of the past 5 years, where dreams were thin and mornings were heavier than nights. Not the anxious waking she had grown accustomed to, heart tight, mind already braced for disappointment. She had slept, all the way through, without waking once. The realization stopped her breath for a moment. She touched the edge of the table, steadying herself, surprised by the quiet inside her own chest. It was not joy. Not yet. But it was something like the memory of peace. Scene 8. Thomas notices the shift. Thomas came into the kitchen late, rubbing sleep from his eyes, hair still damp from washing. He greeted Mrs. Potts, reached for the bread, and then paused mid-movement. He looked at Marian. Really looked. Her shoulders were not tight. Her eyes were not shadowed. Her hands were still. "Did you sleep?" he asked, surprised by his own question. Marian hesitated, then nodded. Thomas blinked, as if adjusting to a new landscape. "Well," he said softly, "that's good." He didn't press. He didn't ask why. He simply sat down, the quiet between them easier than it had been in years. Mrs. Potts, from the stove, allowed herself the smallest smile. Scene 9. Marian realizes she is no longer waiting. The shop was still for a moment, the kind of stillness that happens only between customers, between breaths, between the life she had lived and the one she had not yet named. Marian stood at the counter, folding a length of muslin, when the thought arrived without ceremony. She was not waiting. Not for the lieutenant. Not for a letter. Not for a man who had already chosen a title, a dowry, a future that did not include her. The realization did not hurt. It did not even sting. It simply settled into her like a truth that had been waiting for her to be quiet enough to hear it. She touched the edge of the counter, grounding herself. 5 years of mornings spent scanning the shipping notices. 5 years of listening for the post. 5 years of holding her breath. And now, nothing in her reach toward the door. The world had not ended. It had simply shifted. She exhaled, long and steady, and felt the space inside her widen, not with hope, not yet, but with the absence of ache. Mrs. Potts, from the storeroom doorway, watched her for a long moment. "Good," she said softly, as if Marian had finally put down something heavy she'd been carrying too long. Scene 10. Eleanor Fitzroy interrogates her brother. At Richmond House, Eleanor Fitzroy sat in her brother's study with the air of a woman who had summoned herself and expected answers. Henry had barely crossed the threshold before she spoke. "You're distracted." He removed his gloves with deliberate care. "I am thinking." "You are always thinking. This is different. You are elsewhere." He said nothing. Eleanor narrowed her eyes, the same eyes he had, but sharper, more surgical. "Is it a woman?" Henry paused. That was all the confirmation she needed. "Who is she?" "A seamstress," he said. Eleanor blinked. Not in disapproval, in interest. "A seamstress," she repeated, tasting the word. "And you met her where? In a drawing room? At a music hall?" "In the rain," he said simply. Eleanor stared at him, then sat back, studying him with the precision of a general assessing a battlefield. "You walked in the rain," she said slowly, "and collided with a woman who has now rearranged your entire internal weather." Henry looked at the window rather than at her. Eleanor's voice softened, rare, but real. "Does she know who you are?" "No." "Does she care?" He hesitated. "No." Eleanor smiled, not amused, but pleased. "Well," she said, rising, smoothing her skirts, "that explains everything." She reached the door, then paused. "Henry." He looked up. "Don't be an idiot." Then she left him alone with a rain-washed memory of a woman who had looked at him without fear, without calculation, without needing anything from him at all. Scene 11. The museum. Echoing marble halls, soft footsteps, hushed voices drifting through the galleries. A week later, he sent a note. Not flowers, not jewels, just a line. "The British Museum has acquired antiquities from Athens. The textile fragments from Corinth may interest you. I shall be there Tuesday at noon, should you wish to argue about them." She went. They stood before a Grecian urn for 20 minutes, locked in cheerful dispute. Marian insisting the painted figures were women at a loom, Henry certain it was a funeral procession. A passing scholar informed them both, gently, that the figures were athletes. They walked away in silence, then began laughing at the same moment. They wandered through every room. Henry paused longest before a Roman marble, a woman's face, half-finished, as if the sculptor had stepped away and never returned. "I find the unfinished things more beautiful," he said. "They still hold the possibility of becoming anything." Marian looked at him sideways. She said nothing, but she did not forget it. Scene 12. The almost everyday. The rhythm of daily life, the shop bell chiming, a carriage door closing, birdsong drifting through a garden. After the museum, he came almost every day. Not always with a reason. Sometimes he brought a book he thought she might like and stayed to talk about it for an hour. Sometimes he arrived with no excuse at all, offering to move, mend, or fetch whatever needed doing. Practical help, given without ceremony. Thomas began setting an extra cup by the kettle without being asked. Scene 13. Her grandmother's house. A country lane, birds in the hedges, a wooden gate opening to a quiet garden. One bright morning he took her to visit her grandmother in Chiswick, 70, sharp-eyed, unimpressed by titles. Henry sat in her parlor, ate a very dry biscuit without complaint, and listened to stories of Marian's childhood with genuine delight. At the door, her grandmother squeezed Marian's hand. "That one sees you, my dear. Don't be an idiot." Marian told Henry what she'd said. He kept his eyes on the road and smiled. Scene 14. His sister. A bright drawing room, soft pianoforte notes drifting through the air. It was Lady Eleanor Fitzroy who put the matter plainly. Henry brought Marian to call one Thursday, casual in manner, though the careful warmth of Eleanor's welcome made it clear the visit had been discussed beforehand. Eleanor was sharp and funny, and asked Marian 6 pointed questions disguised as small talk. "Over tea," she said. "My brother has not read a novel in 4 years. He has read 2 in the last month. You should know that." Across the room, Henry looked at the ceiling. Marian kept her composure. Eleanor watched them both and decided she approved. Scene 15. The proposal. A slow, swelling violin, warm, steady, full of promise. Their courtship wasn't a whirlwind. It grew like a hearth fire, a little more light, a little more warmth each day, until Marian could no longer recall the cold. Henry didn't want a marquis's daughter. He wanted the woman who knew work, quiet strength, and the steadiness of a true heart. When he proposed, it wasn't with a token and a promise to return. It was with a steady voice and a vow he had already kept 100 small times, that she would never walk in the rain alone again. Scene 1. The birth of the heir. A year later, the bells of St. George's rolled across the winter morning for the birth of the Marquis of Richmond, the Duke's heir, a child with Marian's dark lashes and Henry's quiet, steady calm. The newborn's soft cooing drifted through the warm hush of the nursery, the fireplace crackling gently. It was on that tide of sound, warmth, life, celebration, that Brandon Willoughby arrived at the gates of Richmond Hall. He stood in the foyer, boots damp from the frost. The house around him hummed with quiet joy, servants moving softly, a child's small breath carrying through the corridor like a promise. His own halls, miles away, held no such music. No children, no laughter, only the cold, echoing arithmetic of a dowry that had bought him everything except happiness. He had come to offer congratulations, but beneath that, he had also come to see, though he would never admit it, what his life might have been. Scene 2. The final lesson. A fire burning low, the hush of a house full of warmth. Brandon stepped into the drawing room, and the warmth of it struck him like a memory he had once held and carelessly dropped. Marian sat near the fire, her son nestled in her arms, the soft glow turning her into something almost mythic, not a duchess by title, but by the quiet authority of a woman who had survived heartbreak and built a life beyond it. Brandon bowed, murmured the expected words, but his voice faltered when he looked at the child. And then at her. The faint rustle sound of the baby's blanket, the fire shifting. When Marian finally looked up at him, it was not with anger, but with a quiet, devastating pity that hollowed him out more thoroughly than any battlefield ever had. In that moment, she understood something she had never seen clearly before. Brandon had not betrayed her. He had betrayed himself. He had traded a future for a fortune, a heart for a title, a life for a ledger. And now he stood before her, a man who had everything he thought he wanted, and nothing he truly needed. A long, aching silence, the fire, the child's soft breath, the weight of unspoken years. The fire cracked softly, as if marking the truth of it. The child breathed in a tiny sigh, and Brandon's regret settled into the room like a shadow that had finally found its shape. He offered a blessing for the boy, his voice roughened by a sorrow he could no longer disguise. Then he turned away, the soft tread of his boots on the carpet sounding like a man walking out of the life he might have lived. Marian watched him go, her son warm against her chest, the house around her full of gentle, living sound, the fire's steady heartbeat, the baby's soft breaths, the quiet certainty of a future she had chosen for herself. And that was the lesson. That love chosen freely is worth more than love demanded. That love built on truth endures longer than love built on longing. That a heart can break and still grow back stronger, and that the sweetest seasons come not from what was lost, but from what one dares to plant anew. Brandon stepped into the corridor, the drawing room's warmth dying behind him. Every muffled footfall felt like a man descending into a truth he had spent years avoiding. Outside, the winter wind whispered against the glass, a hollow echo of the space inside his chest. He paused at the threshold, breath hitching in the frost. He had secured the title and the fortune, but he had lost the only future that ever felt like home. Behind him, the house glowed with a gentle life he could no longer claim. Ahead, the carriage waited in the cold November morning. As he descended the stone steps, the crunch of ice beneath his boots sounded like the brittle remnants of a life he had shattered with his own hands. Inside, Marian tucked her son closer, feeling no triumph, only the steady peace of the past finally loosening its grip. Henry entered the room moments later, his steps soft, his presence grounding. He didn't ask what had been said. He didn't need to. The quiet in Marian's eyes told him everything. She had closed a door today, gently, irrevocably, and opened another. The winter morning at Richmond Hall glows softly with the birth of the Marquis of Richmond. Marian cradles the child with quiet tenderness, the Duke leaning close, his expression filled with calm pride. The fire burns low, the nursery warm and hushed, the bells of St. George's echoing faintly beyond the frosted window. A moment of peace, lineage, and love fulfilled. Brandon would carry the bitter harvest of regret, while Marian finally allowed herself to receive the sweetness of a season she had actually earned.